Alvarez getting loose, getting better here in this round, though.
Oh, man.
Until that.
Oh, he's done. He's done.
It is all over. History has been made. Conor McGregor is the UFC lightweight champion.
I've spent a lot of time, Joe, slating everybody in the company. Backstage, I'm starting fights off everybody. I've ridiculed everyone on the roster. I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the he wants. Let me raise this. This is what I want to do. This is what I dreamed into reality. Oh, that looks good. That looks good. God bless.
Over 20,000 fans in Madison Square Garden treated to Conor McGregor's knockout of Eddie Alvarez, and of course his never-ending stream of consciousness and smack talk. Hey there, welcome to SI Now. It is Monday, November 14th, and I'm Maggie Gray. Conor McGregor made history on Saturday night. To talk more about it, let's welcome in Damon Martin, head MMA writer for FoxSports.com. And Damon, in the first MMA fight in New York in nearly two decades, history was made. McGregor turned in our adrenaline performance. It's presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Damon, what was most impressive about McGregor's win over Eddie Alvarez?
How completely dominant it was. I mean, Eddie Alvarez is such an incredibly tough and durable fighter. The fact that Conor went out there, knocked him down 3 times in the first round, came out, did the same thing in the second round and got the finish was crazy, because Eddie Alvarez has never been dominated like that in his career. And this is, we're talking about a 10-year veteran, more than 30 fights in his record, and he's fought the best of the best over those 10 years. No one has ever beaten Eddie Alvarez like that until Conor McGregor on Saturday night.
Okay, more news in the post-fight press conference. McGregor made some demands of the UFC. Listen to this.
Where's my share? Where's my equity? If I'm the one that's bringing this, if I mean, they've got to come talk to me now. That's all I know. I've got both belts, a chunk of money, a little family on the way. You want me to stick around? You want me to keep doing what I'm doing? Let's talk. But I want the ownership now. I want equal share. I want what I deserve, what I've earned.
Damon, we know McGregor has a lot of leverage. Would the UFC actually give him an ownership stake?
You know, it's hard to deny him, especially if he's going to stay steadfast in this request to not fight again unless he gets that. I mean, if there's ever been a fighter that deserves an equity stake in a promotion like the UFC, it's Conor McGregor. I mean, no one's brought in more money than him. No one's brought in more pay-per-view revenue than him. And, you know, the UFC may have shot themselves in the foot a little bit when they offered, you know, to sell part of the company to celebrities like, you know, Conan O'Brien and some of the other celebrities that work with WME IMG. So by doing that and making it public, Conor kind of realized that it's possible. So I think at this point, they're kind of stuck in the situation of offering him something that would make him want to stay, because otherwise, I'm quite sure Conor McGregor could walk away tomorrow and he has plenty of money to do it with.
What potential problems could arise if McGregor gets an ownership stake?
Well, it opens up the floodgate for other fighters wanting the same thing. Now, there's not a lot of fighters on the UFC roster that have even close to the star power of Conor McGregor, but you could look at a Ronda Rousey who could absolutely make that same demand. She's a star. If she comes back on December 30th and picks up a big win over Amanda Nunes, she could make the same exact request. Whether or not she would, you know, is unknown, but it does open up that floodgate that other fighters would want this same thing. You know, that sell going through for $4.2 billion opened up a lot of eyeballs, and we've seen a lot of fighters, you know, kind of making steadfast demands to say, I'm not going to perform unless I get a better contract. Chris Weidman did that. He didn't get his contract signed for UFC 205 until the day of the press conference when it was announced. So a lot of fighters are starting to see their value, and Conor McGregor getting an ownership stake would only open up those floodgates even more.
Wouldn't a union perhaps take care of some of those issues?
Perhaps, you know, obviously, you know, a union, it would be a big deal for MMA, especially when you look at how it affects other sports like obviously Major League Baseball and basketball and football. But the UFC and mixed martial arts is such a unique sport in the way it's handled. And, there's no real union in boxing. There's no union in professional wrestling, as crazy as that sounds. Professional wrestling and boxing, I think, are much closer to the atmosphere that's carried at a place like the UFC. But we'll see how it all plays out. I know the unions are making a hard push to get in MMA. It's going to take, a guy like Conor McGregor signing on with the union to get it on board, because without a superstar like that, they can actually make demands of the UFC and stick to them. It's going to be hard for a union to catch foothold in the UFC, but it's possible.
Yeah, they need the superstars if they're going to move forward with any of those initiatives. Let's talk about McGregor's future. Of course, after the fight, Tyron Woodley tweeted he wanted a shot at McGregor. Everyone wants a shot at McGregor. What do you think Conor's next fight will be?
I think it will be the trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. I said that before the fight, and I stay in that same prediction now. The two fights with Nate Diaz have been two of the biggest fights in UFC history. Now Conor McGregor has set a new bar by becoming lightweight champion to go along with his featherweight championship. A third match with Nate Diaz with the title on the line would definitely be the biggest fight in UFC history. I think they would do, between 2 and 3 million pay-per-view buys, which would by far be the biggest UFC card of all time. I had heard rumors that Nate even showed up at Conor McGregor's post-fight party on Saturday night trying to get in, obviously, to confront Conor maybe, I don't know. But that by far is the biggest fight. That is definitely the biggest fight they could put on, and I think that is most likely the fight that will happen. Probably not until mid-next year if it does happen. I think Conor really does want to take some time off. He's had 4 fights in less than 12 months, all of them huge 5-round fights. So I think, taking some time off, having the birth of his first baby in May, and then, maybe look at like July. They have a big international fight week card every July. I think that would be kind of the place and time for Diaz-McGregor 3.
Very interesting. I know the fans would love it. Dana White said after Saturday night that this fight set a new record for a live gate at Madison Square Garden, or the entire night did. It brought in nearly $18 million. Damon, how often do you think fights will now be held in New York City?
I think we're going to see it quite often. I mean, they've already announced that they're going to go back to Brooklyn in February for an event. They're going to Albany in December. I think that they're going to be at Madison Square Garden at least once a year, perhaps twice a year. I think they're going to go to the Barclays Center in New York once or twice a year. I think, the biggest loser in all this, unfortunately, is going to end up being, the state of Nevada, because a lot of the biggest cards have always gone to Las Vegas. And I think if New York is going to be this kind of a market for the UFC, and I think we saw it being proven on Saturday night, that New York may end up being a destination for 3 or 4 huge fight cards a year, and now that's going to have to be divvied up with Las Vegas, who might drop down to 3 or 4 fights a year as opposed to the 6 or 7 they're having right now.
Damon, final one for you. This was being touted as UFC's Super Bowl, the card that was going to announce the outfit's true arrival into the mainstream. Was that achieved?
I believe it was, because there was so much attention being paid to this event beforehand. I was at the post-fight press conference asking questions, and we had people from CNBC and Wall Street Journal showing up. These are things that have never happened. I've been to, I don't even know how many UFC events I've been to over the last 14 years since I started covering the sport. And I've never seen, a lot of those kind of outlets covering the UFC and giving attention to stars like Conor McGregor. I think this was kind of a transcendent moment for the UFC. It was the hottest topic all weekend long, and it's still the hottest topic going into Monday. I think this is proof that the UFC has hit the mainstream to a certain level, when you talk about a superstar like Conor McGregor, especially the way he has transcended the sport and become a superstar of pop culture as much as he's a superstar of combat sports.
Head MMA writer for FoxSports.com, Damon Martin. Damon, thank you so much for joining us to give us a little perspective on what we saw on Saturday night.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Well, the NFL needed that, didn't they? A Sunday filled with drama and comebacks and star performances. For more, we turn to Ryan Aselta, who's with Super Bowl champion Chris Canty.
Well, what a week in the NFL. So much talk, Chris, about TV ratings being down, but one way to get viewers, Chris, is to have some great football. And
some great ball. There was some great ball this weekend.
Yeah, Week 10, by far the best week in the NFL. And let's start with the late-night showdown on Sunday night in Foxborough, where the Seahawks knock off the Patriots. Chris, New England's 4th down play from the 1-yard line falls, an incomplete pass, a lot of contact between Rob Gronkowski and Cam Chancellor. So much talk this year about the refs missing calls. They've been embattled all season long. This situation, that play, did they get the call right?
No, they absolutely got the call right. It was a good no call by the officials. When you saw what happened earlier in the game between Gronkowski and Cam Chancellor in a one-on-one situation, Cam was flagged. There was a little more push and pull from the defensive aspect of it. But in this situation, Cam just let Gronkowski push him to the ground. The ball was over his head. It was uncatchable. And I think the officials did a great job of not calling that play because Gronkowski initiated the contact. But overall, it was just an impressive stance by the Seattle Seahawks on the goal line, stopping 2 quarterback sneaks by Tom Brady, almost forcing a turnover because Brady fumbled the second one. You see they had a stone wall on LeGarrette Blount on that rush attempt. Again, and then a passing play to Gronkowski. So very impressive to see that Seattle Seahawks group rise up when you have a goal-to-go situation that late in the game. Overall, tremendous performance by that team. You see what Russell Wilson was able to do, not just being able to be effective in the passing game, but being able to facilitate that run game, getting C.J. Prosise and those guys going, integrating all those different weapons in the passing attack with Jimmy Graham, with Jermaine Kearse, and of course his favorite target, Doug Baldwin. So impressive to see that group. I think the New England Patriots pass rush was missing Chandler Jones last night. One of those things that we don't talk about very often. You think that Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia are going to be able to manufacture pressure, but it just wasn't able to do that. They weren't able to exploit the deficiencies of the Seattle Seahawks offensive line, a group that had been struggling up until yesterday. But they played well. You got to tip their cap to them. 96 yards rushing. Again, keeping the pocket clean for Russell Wilson to operate. Really impressed with that Seattle Seahawks team going on the road in a short week because they played on Monday night against the Bills and being able to beat the New England Patriots.
Seahawks proved the Patriots may be mortal. You know, Pats were coming off a bye and a home game there. This is that team coming off a Monday night game, goes cross country and beats them in their own park. What do you think? Did they show some problems with the Patriots that we may have seen the first 9 weeks of the season?
You know, I think they might have shown a few chinks in the armor. Again, Rob Gronkowski got a little banged up in that game, so he wasn't available the entire game. And I think the Seattle Seahawks did a great job of limiting Tom Brady in terms of where he could go with the football, taking some things away from him. We always talk about Bill Belichick taking away a team's #1 threat. But I think Seattle Seahawks and Pete Carroll and his staff did a great job, Chris Richards, defensive coordinator, of taking a few things away that are staples in the New England Patriots offense, some of the option routes, some of the things underneath that Tom Brady likes to utilize to get the ball out of his hands quickly. They made him hold it, give those pass rushers, Frank Clark and Cliff Averill, just another half a second to get to the passer, and they were able to affect him enough, and I think that was the difference in the game.
All right, let's move on to our next topic. Big trouble in Green Bay. For years, it's been thought that if you had Aaron Rodgers, you had a chance. Well, yesterday proved otherwise as the Packers get blown out by the Titans. Chris, Packers have issues on both sides of the ball. Which one is more immediate right now, offense or defense?
I'm going to say the offensive side of the ball and protecting Aaron Rodgers and providing balance for him with the running game. Right now, the offensive line isn't playing very well. They can't run the football, so everybody understands it's pass. They understand it's going to be on number 12. And defenses are doing just enough to be able to pressure him, force him into some mistakes, get some hits on him. And I don't care how good the quarterback is, he's going to be suspect when you keep hitting him consistently. And that's what happened yesterday in Tennessee. They punched those guys in the mouth from the first whistle, and the Green Bay Packers weren't able to respond. A lot of question marks right now with this Green Bay Packers team. That division is up for grabs right now, but they're not playing very well. They're trending in the wrong direction. They got to right the ship if they want any chance of trying to make the postseason.
7 weeks to go. Can that happen? Can they right the ship and fix this thing?
Well, they got to find a run game, and that just comes with committing to running the football. Mike McCarthy and his staff have got to realize that it's about being able to get the volume of carries in terms of number of rush attempts to be able to provide balance, because you can't be a one-dimensional team. You don't want to expose your offensive linemen to pass rushers that know it's pass. Newsflash, Mike McCarthy, when pass rushers know it's pass, they rush that much better. So try to keep them off balance by being able to run the ball, and that's been a problem for this team. They got Ty Montgomery, a wide receiver, trying to run the ball. Now, they got James Starks back yesterday, but he was relatively ineffective again. They've got to be able to relieve some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. He can't do it all.
All right, let's move on to the game of the week where the Cowboys beat the Steelers. What impressed you most about the rookies? Dak, Ezekiel leading the Cowboys to a win on the road at Heinz Field.
They didn't panic. They didn't panic. And you saw the turnover on the first drive by Dak Prescott, the sack fumble, and you saw him on the sideline. He didn't look like he was fazed. He didn't panic. It was a hostile environment going into Pittsburgh. That's a tough place to play. But then again, you see what happens. The Pittsburgh Steelers came with a double dog blitz on the inside, the bear blitz, 2 inside linebackers, and Dak Prescott trusted his protection. He stepped up. The running back, Lance Dunbar, got it picked up, and he was able to hit that 50-yard touchdown pass to Dez Bryant. Another impressive situation. Then you look at the end of the game, 42 seconds left, getting the ball on the 25-yard line. those guys didn't panic. They were down 2. They drove the length of the field, and they didn't leave it up to the kicker. Ezekiel Elliott hit the walk-off touchdown run. Very impressive to see those guys finish a game like that. Again, the offensive line came to play. They brought their hard hats. They were able to establish a new line of scrimmage. Ezekiel Elliott, that run game, 127 yards on the ground. But most impressed with the situational football, the situational aspect of things. Those guys have confidence that they're able to perform and they're able to win those situations.
Cowboys have the Ravens, Redskins, Vikings, and Giants down the road here. So not a really tough schedule. Okay, but not a real
They should be
murderer's
favored in
row
most
here.
of the games from here on out. So it'd be interesting to see how that schedule plays out.
All right, our last topic. That's 4 in a row for the Dolphins. Yeah, a month ago, Miami was blown out by Tennessee, dropped them to 1-4 in the season. Now the Fins have reeled off 4 straight wins after a wild W in San Diego. Chris, Miami seems to have figured things out. The schedule coming up includes losing teams in 4 of its final 7 games. Is it time to start considering the Dolphins as a playoff team here?
I think you have to consider them. Now, they've got some work to do because there's some teams in the AFC West that would have something to say about that. But the formula for success for the Miami Dolphins has been taking the ball out of Ryan Tannehill's hands and putting it in Jay Ajayi's hands and that offensive line, and they've been winning football games like that. If they continue to do that, that's something that they can recreate each game, week in, week out, and they're going to be able to have a lot of success with. That offensive line is playing really, really well right now. 4 first-round draft picks on that offensive line, so it's a group that has talent. Now you're allowing those guys to do what they do best, what they love to do. Every offensive lineman will tell you they love to run block. They're letting those guys get involved in the game. They're controlling the line of scrimmage, and when you can do that, you can dictate the terms of the game. Ryan Tannehill taking shots in play action, get chunk yardage to Devontae Parker, Kenny Stills, and Jarvis Landry. I think that's the direction that this offense needs to go. Protect that defense as well, control time of possession. Dolphins are rolling right now.
Yeah, they go for 5 in a row, Week 11 at the Rams. Not a real tough one across the country. All right, one of the biggest comebacks of Week 10 was down in Charlotte, where the Chiefs came from 17 points down in the fourth quarter to beat the Panthers. Now, the win was highlighted by an Eric Berry 42-yard pick six. Well, earlier today, Maggie had a chance to catch up with the Chiefs safety, whose big play helped Kansas City improve to 7-2 on the season.
We'll never count the Kansas City Chiefs out of it. For the second time this season, the Chiefs scored 17 points in the fourth quarter to pull out a victory. The latest victims, the reigning MVP Cam Newton and the Carolina Panthers. And I'm pleased to be joined by Chief Safety Eric Berry, who is helping out high school students with a partnership with Old Spice. We'll get to that in just a moment. But Eric, your team was down 17-6 with under 11 minutes to play. You come up with a huge interception that turns into one of the most exciting pick sixes of the season. It's our adrenaline performance presented by Toyota. Let's go places. Eric, what did you see on that play and the 42-yard return for a touchdown?
And I just wanted to make the most of my opportunity. I knew one was going to come. I just didn't know where it was going to come from or who was going to get it. But that's one thing we talk about in practice is just when you get an opportunity to get the ball, just try to score with it and help your team out. So that was all I was doing. And I think my teammates did a great job of getting blocks and shielding the defenders. They were offensive players, but now defenders. They did a great job of helping me get down the field. And like I said, that's something that we practice on every day at practice.
We love the 2 spin moves that you had to put on the Panthers to get yourself into the end zone. Now, you and Cam Newton have a long history. You both attended rival high schools in South Fulton, Georgia. You played quarterback for Creekside. He played for Westlake. How satisfying was it to return his interception for a touchdown? Did it bring up any old memories?
Man, it was cool. We've come a long way, both of us in both of our careers, and I think it's cool just the fact that we're both from South Fulton, and just us being on this big stage and knowing how much work he's put in to get to that point, and the work I've put in to get into this point. Hopefully, not just kids, period, but kids from our community. I hope they saw the game and came away inspired by both of us. And hopefully they'll just continue to work hard. And I hope they're just motivated to keep, just being the best that they can be.
As a competitor, what does it feel like to know you could have delivered the knockout blow to Carolina's season?
I don't know, man. I'm not really concerned about that. All I know is that we came up with the win. And that's what we wanted to do. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to help put ourselves in a good position down here and down the stretch. So we're just going to keep working hard every day and just keep putting in the time.
I want to ask you about Marcus Peters. He's a very special talent, but he can be a wild card. For the second week in a row, he punted the ball into the stands after making a big play on defense. Now, if he had gotten an unsportsmanlike penalty, it could have been the difference between a win and a loss, but instead he got a 5-yard delay of game penalty. How do you get him to be smarter without stifling his passion?
It's just a learning experience. That's one thing Coach talks about is letting your personality show, and that's what he's doing. And we all come from different backgrounds. We all know different things, and we come up different ways. And he's just having fun, and that's one thing that he's doing. But a lot of times, sometimes I guess you could just, the thing about it is it's just being smart, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure we're helping each other out and keeping each other in good situations. And that's what he does a great job of. And every day he comes in and works, and he really pushes us to be great. And that's what he does as a player.
Well, he said he promised he will not be punting the ball into the stands anymore. So we'll see if he keeps his promise. Not so sure about that. Of course, your team is in first place in the toughest division in the league, the AFC West. How confident are you that this team will win that division?
We just got to keep doing what we do, man. We can't get caught up in that. We got to stick to the process that's been winning us games, and that's coming in throughout the week and just doing what we can, putting in the time, putting in the work, and coming in with a good attitude and giving great effort. And as long as we keep doing that and keep leaning on each other and holding each other accountable, I think the sky's the limit for us. So we can't really get too concerned with, looking too far down the road, but we got to take advantage of the days we have and when they come up.
Now your team's going to be taking on the Bucs this upcoming Sunday. Jameis Winston, he's been impressive this season. How do you and the defense plan on containing him?
We'll have to look at a little more film and see what's going on, but hopefully we can just come together as a team, just players and coaches, and come up with a good plan this week and get the job done. We'll see, but I know we're going to work very hard this week to get that done.
Eric, finally, you've partnered up with Old Spice to help local high school students. Can you tell us about this program?
Oh, man, that's, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my experience there, but I think it's really cool that they stepped in, and not only are they, pretty much coming there, but they're also giving the kids some products as well. Like some kids that might not be able to get these type of things, or it's saving money for their parents. They can spend that money somewhere else. So them not having to worry about getting deodorant or stuff like that. They can have this, and it's a very good product. One of my favorites is the Lasting Legend, and that sits with me very well because that's what I want to do every day. I want to go out there and work towards leaving my legacy, and that's just a little small thing that I think about every morning, and hopefully that can inspire some of the kids out there today too.
There's so many inspiring parts of your story. Just making it to the league is one thing, but also overcoming cancer. When you go and speak to young children, what do you find resonates with them the most? How do you connect with them?
I don't know. I think the biggest thing is just understanding that everybody's going through something, and it might not be cancer. It might be something else. It could be emotional, physical, whatever. But a lot of people, everybody's going through something. And once you realize that, hopefully you just let them know it's going to be okay. I just try to tell them what helped me, get through my tough times, and hopefully it'll help them too. So that's the one thing I just try to do is just help others.
Empathy. It's a good lesson for all of us to learn. Eric Berry, thank you so much for joining us. Keep up the great work with the Chiefs and, of course, Old Spice as well. Have fun with the high school players.
All right, thank you.
Well, 3 of the top 4 college football teams were upset on Saturday, but how many changes are coming to the college football playoff rankings? For more, let's talk about it with Super Bowl champion and former All-American from Michigan, Lamar Woodley, good enough to join us. Lamar, your Michigan Wolverines fell to unranked Iowa on a last-second field goal. From the Michigan perspective, what should be the biggest takeaway from that game?
I mean, the takeaway from that is, Iowa's always played Michigan hard. They always played us tough when I was there. So no matter what Iowa was ranked, we knew that was going to be a tough game going down there playing at night. It was just a thing where, it just came down to the last minute, and we didn't get out that situation. Iowa came out on top.
Should Michigan still be ranked in the top 4 despite the loss?
Hey, we kind of put ourselves in that situation. So now all we can do is control what we can control, and that's finish up strong the rest of these games and keep going.
You didn't answer that one, Lamar. Should they be ranked in the top 4?
Hey, like I said, we put ourselves in that situation. So, we took that out of our control when we lost that game. So all we can do is control what we can control and go out there and finish out the season.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you're saying, do they deserve to be in the top 4? Maybe I should have rephrased the question.
Hey, I'm going to tell you the same thing. We put ourselves in that situation by losing.
Got it. Okay.
So we just got to finish strong.
Okay, I didn't mean to badger you there, but got to get your thoughts on this. If the season ended today, which 4 teams do you think would be in the college football playoff?
Are you still trying to find a way to get me to say it? You finding a way. You definitely know I'm going to say Michigan going to be in the top 4. So there it is. You got it out of me. Michigan should be in the top 4.
Okay, I'm glad. Like I said, didn't mean to badger you, especially on a Monday. But I also want to get your thoughts on the Heisman Trophy race because Jabril Peppers was in that conversation. Looking at it objectively, is he still in the conversation?
I definitely believe he's still in that conversation. You can't just determine that based off one loss. He's been out there performing all year, been having a great career. And I think that he's still going to go out there for the rest of the few games that we have left and finish strong. So I don't think that because we lost this game, it knocks him out the Heisman race.
Okay. I want to turn to the pros for a moment because you played 9 seasons, making the Pro Bowl, winning a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw Ben Roethlisberger called his team out for being undisciplined in their loss to Dallas. But Ben wasn't sure if it was the coaches or the players. Who was to blame? From your vantage point, why do you think the team is so undisciplined?
I just think right now, I've been saying it all year long, is that Pittsburgh is known for defense. We're known for defense. They're hard-nosed defense, outside linebackers getting after the quarterback, stopping the run. And I don't feel like we've been doing a great job this year of doing that. I think right now we have a total probably of 11 to 12 sacks, and that's just not Pittsburgh defense. So all the way around, we have to show up on defense because right now offense is playing great. Ben is playing great, Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, they're all playing great. But on the defense side of the ball, we have to pick it up over there and get after the quarterback and stop the run and stop giving up big plays. When we give up big plays, that's what causes the game. And as you see, we gave up 2 big runs at the end of the game that cost us.
What about another former team of yours, the Raiders? They had a bye week this week, but they're 7-2 on the season. Is this team a pretender or a legitimate Super Bowl contender?
Oh, they are definitely a contender. That's one team that I talked about early in the year when I went on another network and we were talking about the Raiders, and I said the Raiders are the real deal. Only thing they needed was a few coaches changes, and they're going out there proving everybody right. Derek Carr is playing great, and when the Raiders are playing great, the Raider Nation is unbelievable. That's one crowd that once the Raiders turned it around, that was going to be unbelievable because they were supporting their team when they were down. And now that the Raiders is doing great, it's going to be crazy if they have home field advantage in the playoffs.
They're playing one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. We'll see how they do the rest of the season. We should mention you're the new co-host of the NFL Network show Tackle My Ride, where you're giving fans a chance to win car makeovers. What are you doing to these cars that make them look so cool?
We actually worked with with NFL teams and players on the teams to pick deserving fans to get their car tackled. These fans are big fans of the team, but also does a great job in the community with giving back. So we wanted to make sure that we restored their cars to make sure that those cars are reliable so they continue to give back. And me and the other co-host, James Torres, who's from Hobbs, New Mexico, a very, very small town, him and his kids does a great job of fixing up the cars. And it's not like we're doing anything crazy to the cars. We're not putting fish tanks in the cars. We're not doing nothing over the top. We want to make sure that the cars are functional and that the people feel comfortable driving the cars every day. So it's giving back. It's showing that, as an athlete, we appreciate fans because I had a chance really to chill with the fans, go inside their homes and see some of the traditions that they do each and every day for the games. And I tell you what, I really appreciate the fans for everything that they do, and they really deserve this.
Well, of course, Tackle My Ride premieres Tuesday, November 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern on NFL Network. Lamar Woodley, believes that Michigan's in the top 4. Lamar, thank you for being a good sport. Appreciate it. And good luck with the TV show moving forward.
All right, thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for this Monday edition of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. But until then, stick with SI.com and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a good Monday. We'll see you tomorrow.